Welcome to the Village Green NBTV show on what's going on in the environment in Newport Beach. I'm Nancy Gardner, your host. We have a couple of interesting segments today. One is we're going to visit Earth Day and a number of events that are occurring at the Moose Center under the sponsorship of the Newport Bay Conservancy. And then we're also going to look at the wonderful underwater cleanup that Help Your Harbor does every year. I'm here at the Moose Center with Earth Day, and Nathan Taxel, what's your title?
I'm a resource specialist with Orange County Parks.
Okay, and there are a bunch of people behind us, and they're walking through the mustard, but they're not really walking through the mustard. What are they doing?
They're helping us get rid of it. The black mustard is an invasive species.
Now stop. I think most of us have grown up with it, think, oh, mustard, that must be a native. There's so much of it.
It's been here for a really long time, potentially all the way back to the missions, but it was brought here accidentally, and it's not so good for our native habitat.
And why is that? Because it certainly can be pretty.
It is very pretty, but a lot of our native animals, and especially birds, can't build their nests in it. They do nest in our native coastal sage scrub and chaparral, and the mustard grows in so fast that all of our native plants don't have a chance to grow, and they actually die, and we end up with what's called a monoculture, where there's mustard growing and nothing else.
Okay, so are they pulling it by hand, or how are they doing it?
They are pulling it by hand. They're using some shovels to dig it up by the root, and then we take it away and dispose of it.
And we've had a particularly large bloom this year because of all the rain, but you said at one point that could almost be sort of an advantage.
Yeah, so all of the rain has meant that we've had a huge bloom, the super bloom this year, and everything is sprouting and growing. It's why there are so many wildflowers all over Southern California. And that means that a lot of the seeds in what we call the seed bank or underground for the mustard have grown. And if we can get rid of them before they produce more seeds, we will actually have reduced the overall number of mustard plants that grow in an area. So we're trying to take advantage of it. We have a number of volunteer events through the spring to get folks out and have them help us clear as much as we can.
Okay, and then I guess mustard also, once it hits the dry season, can be a bit of a fire hazard.
That's correct. This is an annual, so it means it grows and completes its life cycle and dies throughout a single year or season. All of our native shrubs are perennials, so they grow year-round, and while they do dry up in the late summer and fall, they retain a lot more moisture than the dead mustard. So the mustard, because it grows so fast and so tall and then dies, does definitely increase the amount of fuel in an area and contribute to fire risk.
Okay, well, for those of us who think it's pretty, we'll just have to change our points of view. And good luck with getting rid of a lot of it this year.
Thank you so much.
I'm here with Victoria Reiser, who's a naturalist. And before we go any farther, that's not just a title. Anybody who has that name, naturalist, they have been through how many months of training?
Well, it's actually 13 weeks that we go through. And it's Thursday evenings from 7 to 9. And then on the weekends, we have field trips where we actually go out and have a chance to evaluate the flowers, the birds, the marine life, and it's such a spectacular program because you're given a book with all kinds of information, which is seemingly overwhelming, but it's a fantastic opportunity.
Well, it is, and everybody becomes so knowledgeable that you can ask them practically anything on any field and they have an answer. But right now we're talking about bird watching.
Yes.
So what sort of birds are good to watch in this area?
Well, fortunately here in the upper Newport Bay, we have migratory birds that come through mostly in the fall, in early winter, and then again they pass through again. And so there are actually some 240 species that come through here, and it's amazing.
Again, 240?
240 species that have been identified here in the upper Newport Bay. We're so fortunate, and some of the birds actually stay here year-round. So it's a fun opportunity to come out and try to identify the birds. We have handouts here which help people identify the bird species, and it's very fun.
Well, I think bird watching is like the number 2 occupation or something besides gardening. I mean, it's amazing how popular it is. Do you get a lot of people coming from out of the area to look at the birds here?
We actually do. It's interesting. Working here at the Muth Center, we have people who are actually coming here specifically to look for a variety of birds. And so it's a perfect place. It's one of the unique places. I believe it's number 2 or number 5 in the state of largest number of species to see. So it's a perfect opportunity to come here to identify.
That's amazing because I grew up here and I had no idea we had that much variety. I mean, I see even in my own yard, I'll see a number of varieties, but nothing like that. Now, over here, you're making what?
Binoculars.
All right, hold on.
Guaranteed to be as good as your vision.
And your name is?
I'm Terry.
Terry.
King.
And you are also a naturalist?
I'm not a naturalist yet. I'm
Okay.
just a volunteer.
All
I
right.
haven't gone through the 13 weeks training that she was speaking of. But we do have some really great examples of wayward birds. Right now we have barn swallows that are building nests right
Oh.
underneath the eaves over here at the center. And there's a little roadrunner running around. His name is Romeo.
He's called Romeo because he's always carrying a lizard in his mouth, obviously looking for a female.
Oh, okay. Well, good.
But, anyway,
Spring.
I used to bring students here, and I love the place. It's one of a kind, and so I decided to become a naturalist. But I'm in training,
A naturalist in training and making binoculars for the kids.
definitely.
Well, good. Well, I hope you have a good turnout today. Lots of people to learn
So
about
too,
the various
weather's
birds.
Perfect. Weather's perfect.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Cold for me, but but it is. It's nice, not windy or anything, and I'm sure people will see a lot of birds today if they walk around.
Oh, if they're quiet and their eyes are open, they'll find.
Okay. Thank you. I'm here with Debbie Waynes and from the Wetlands and Wildlife Care Center, which is in Huntington Beach. I think it got started after the first oil spill, didn't it?
Yes.
She's getting some cues from off stage.
I'm like, yep, that's it.
Well, tell me, how many animals, birds, and everything do you get usually?
5,000 a year.
All right, wait a minute. Come here. And this is Stacy Sweeting, Sweeting. I have a feeling she has maybe a little more history or something.
Yes, just a little
Just
bit.
a different position. I help write grants for the center, so I know some of those other details that she might not know. But yeah, we see about 5,000 animals.
And are most of them, did people bring them in, or how did they get there?
The main way we get animals is animal control brings them in, but also the public. We're not capable at this time to go out and actually do the rescues ourselves, but we are hoping to do some of that in the future, starting with pelicans. We have a new program starting. But yes, animal control and the public do bring them into our facility.
So what's a typical injury?
It depends what bird you're talking about.
Or mammal.
Or mammal.
A lot
yeah.
of window strikes for the birds.
Yes, definitely.
Mammals like the possums are hit by car. A lot of mallards come in orphaned. Raccoons, I'd say orphans,
yeah,
because
lots
the
of
parents
babies.
been hit by cars, window strikes, illness just from the ocean. Maybe they're starving to death, dehydration, those types of things.
So if a sea lion, somebody reported, you send it down to Laguna?
Correct, Pacific Marine Mammal Center, and we do get those calls, and we just refer
Push
them
them
down
over.
there.
Yep.
So you have a good success rate? I mean, obviously some of the animals and birds are in probably pretty bad shape when they come.
believe We're about 50%, which
I
from
think we're more
my
than that now.
understanding is good for wildlife rehab, yes. Because if they can't survive on the wild, we can't release them. If a bird can't fly, it's just not fair to put it back out there, so.
They give it to a zoo or something, or what?
In rare cases, we do find a sanctuary type of situation for an animal that can't be released, but it's euthanasia if they, humane euthanasia if they can't survive in the wild.
So obviously the treatment is difficult because they're wild, and you're trying, one, to say, okay, we want to keep them as wild as possible,
Right.
but dealing with them. But also the second major if you have a cure for them, I mean, you get a healthy bird and they can be restored, is that easy, or you just dump them out there, or what do you do?
We do release to different areas, depending on what animal it is.
And where it came from. We
Yeah.
try to release it back to as close to where it came from as possible. But it
We
does
try.
depend. There are certain situations, like I can think of raccoons, for example, where maybe they came from somebody's neighborhood and they're insistent that they don't want them released back there.
Yeah.
Then we can make other arrangements and take them further out into the wild somewhere to release them.
Well, now are they tagged anyway, or?
No, not typically, except for the snowy plovers that we were doing. They would be tagged and tracked. I did want to mention one other way that a lot of the animals are coming in injured, and I should have thought of it. Fishing line and fish hooks. This is a huge problem. This is all fishing line just from the past couple weeks that have been taken off of a lot of birds. They're constantly swallowing hooks, getting entangled in the lines, so we definitely want to be sure that we tell all the fishermen out there to dispose of all their fishing equipment appropriately.
Okay, that's a really important thing because you do see a lot. I've seen birds like that,
Just
and
like
just
this.
They come in just
Like this. All kinds of different birds, and even some of the mammals too.
How are you funded?
By the public, grants and public donations.
Okay.
Strictly.
Yep.
And if someone wants to know more about it,
Our website is www.wwccoc.org. So Wetlands and Wildlife Care Center, and then the OC. So the initials for that.
okay,
A little
that's
confusing.
it is confusing. But if you just typed in Wetlands Wildlife Center, you'd get
Yes,
there at
yes.
some point. So
Exactly.
thank you very much, and thank you for all the good work you do.
Thank you.
We're here at the, what do we call it? The Citizens Climate Lobby. I know you've been working on this a long time, Mark. Tell us what's going on.
Well, we've been working for 12 years to get a bill into Congress, bipartisan, and after 12 years, we have one.
Hooray!
It was actually introduced last session of Congress, and they called it a bookmark when they set this thing up, because they knew it wouldn't, it was like the last few weeks of Congress. It opened up about 2 months ago now. We have 31 sponsors. Every day the number changes because we're continuing to get more sponsors. It's a bipartisan bill that's global in nature. In other words, if we do this in the United States, it radiates around the world because we have the power in our economy to direct what other people do if they want to import to us without paying a fee at our border. So it's basically what we wanted. We're sort of like in disbelief that it happened the way it's happened.
After so many years.
Yeah, and we started out last year with 4 Republicans and 6 Democrats. This year we only have 1 Republican, but that's because that's good news. Republicans are having so many deals going right now on climate change, their own deals, that they're afraid to sign on to this one.
When you say climate deals, are we talking good climate deals or anti-climate deals?
No, these people are, there's a man in Florida now that has a new real deal. Instead of the new Green Deal or the Green New Deal, it's now the Green Real Deal. And his bill, his suggestion, asks for 6 basic things, and everyone is accomplished by our bill if it were to pass. Everyone. And we don't need subsidies, and we don't need EPA regulations to do that. So his is much more intrusive. His is more democratic than ours is. Ours is more conservative.
All right. Well, I think that's great. It would be wonderful because certainly as a country we've backed off of some things that we or maybe shouldn't have, and to see us take a lead would be great.
I'll just close by saying this. We need majorities like we had for the Clean Water Act, the Clean Air Act, the Environment, all those bills back in the 70s when Nixon was the president.
Right.
We need majorities like 400 to 35 because that's what we need. We need bipartisan, and we're the ones that have a bipartisan effort.
Right. And I think people do forget the history of it, that it was a Republican president that was there during a lot of the landmark legislation.
Yeah, the one I didn't mention was endangered species. So he actually did 4 major deals. Green air, the clean water, or the clean air was actually started in '63, but it was hugely improved in 1970. And so there we are.
Good. Hey, we're talking here with Kit from the vector control, and that's a critical aspect that people often don't pay much attention to. You particularly control.
For our main vector are mosquitoes, but then we also can look for ticks, disease in ticks. We also look for disease in fleas, and we control other vector-borne diseases.
Now, do you work only with the cities and the county, or do you work with individuals as far as on issues?
Yeah, we work with everyone in the county. We're a county-wide agency, and particularly we work with residents in Orange County to help control urban mosquito issues.
So what's a typical thing you might do with an individual?
Well, if an individual has a biting complaint in their backyard or house, we'll inspect the backyard, and really it's an education base control where we will show them where all the breeding sites are. Normally, anytime we have a mosquito biting issue, it's usually within the backyard, and it's usually a small breeding source like a container or anything that's holding a small amount of water. But that small amount of water can produce thousands and thousands of mosquito over time. So usually if they're complaining about a heavy bite incident, it's probably because there's a standing water somewhere.
Are we seeing in Orange County any of these new scary mosquitoes?
Yes, we are. There's a very big infestation of the new invasive Aedes aegypti mosquito and Aedes albopictus, the yellow fever mosquito, Aedes aegypti, and the Asian tiger mosquito, Aedes albopictus. And we are seeing them. They're mostly all over the central northern part of Orange County. And if you go on our website, you can type in your address and you can see where your house stands inside the infestation zone, whether you're in the infestation zone or not.
I don't know if I'm in there. I'm going to be staying awake night going, am I getting a mosquito probably?
Well, you'll know if you're getting bit during the day in your garden or anything in a shaded area in the back. That means you probably have the invasive Aedes mosquito.
And aside from getting rid of water, standing water, are there other things to do as far as mosquitoes?
Absolutely. We believe that this is a neighborhood style approach. If you're getting bit and you have no standing water, if your backyard is perfectly clean, it might not be you, it might be your neighbor, it might be the house behind you. So it is a community outreach event. If you are getting bit and you don't know where it is, talk to your neighbor. I love to strive to tell everyone to talk to the neighbors, pass out any of this information, and really approach it in a neighborhood-wide approach.
Okay, well, if you want to know if you're living within a certain mosquito district, you can go on the website, which is?
ocvector.org.
All right, thank you very much. All right, I'm here with Heather Cieslak. She's the one you go to for everything about the Newport Bay Conservancy. And it's Earth Day.
It is. Well, Earth Day is every day for us, but we're celebrating it today, April 20th. It actually occurs every year on April 22nd, but we're going to celebrate a little early today.
If you have not been to the Moose Center, in the grounds of the Moose Center, for the NBC's Earth Day celebration, you really must mark it on your calendar for next year. There is everything. They've got people from the whales, they've got bird watching. I mean, it's amazing how many people you have here.
Oh man, there's probably almost 30 of our nonprofit partners here exhibiting, showcasing what they do to help promote the environment and save the environment and help promote what we can do to help.
And we're standing here. This is sort of interesting. What is 50? What?
50. So the Newport Bay Conservancy, we've been celebrating our 50th anniversary. So the Newport Bay Conservancy started out as Friends of Newport Bay to campaign to save the bay from development. And now we've done that. We still want to promote the open space and keep preserving and protecting it.
And I understand there's something, a publication coming?
Absolutely. So this fall, we hired Cassandra Radcliffe. She was one of our volunteers. She still is, and she just had a really passion for the bay, and she's an editor by trade. She took on writing the book on saving the bay. So Frank and Fran Robinson were the Robinsons who really started the crusade to save the bay back in the 60s and 70s. So this book is really about their crusade to do that.
Oh, I'm sure it's going to be a beautiful book, and it's wonderful to celebrate all the things that have happened in the Bay.
In 50 years, yes. There's so far we've come as far as protecting the endangered species, and so far we've come as educating and restoring the Bay. It's just been phenomenal.
Well, thank you, Heather. And now we're going to go out and see all the exhibits.
Go for it. Thank you for coming out.
I'm here with Dareth Morrissey of the... What is this group? I know it's whales.
We're the American Cetacean Society, and cetacean means any aquatic marine mammal, or aquatic mammal, and so that's whales and dolphins and porpoises.
Okay. Now, we see a lot of them over the course of the year,
We're
don't we?
very lucky to live along the California coast, and right now we've got our gray whales that are migrating from the lagoons in Mexico back up to their feeding grounds in Alaska. I was out on the water Wednesday and we saw a cow-calf pair, and there were 2 others that were coming. We've had blue whales sighted already off of our coast. There are fin whales and even a mom and a baby that are in the Santa Monica Canyon right now that were photographed the other day. We see humpbacks feeding, tons of different dolphin species, Pacific white-sided and bottlenose and common dolphin. Yeah, we live in a marine mammal-rich area.
Well, so now exactly what does your group do? I mean, are you into protecting legislation? What sort of things?
We are all about education and making people aware. I think we're the oldest group that started, our chapter started in 1974 with the whole Save the Whales movement to make sure that whales were protected. And so we're an education-based volunteer organization that's national. We've got chapters, all over up and down the coast in LA and San Diego, and we're in the Orange County area here. And we train a lot of naturalists that go out on the whale watch boats to educate the people about what they're seeing.
What sort of messages do you like to convey?
I want people to love whales, so you just learn to protect what you love, to quote Jacques Cousteau. And I think right now we're at that critical, tipping point that without the oceans, every other breath we take is because of plankton, and the other breath is trees. So if the oceans die, we die, and we need to make sure that we're doing all that we can to cut down on the CO2 emissions and to get plastic out of the ocean, and no more stormwater and urban runoff, and overfishing and the marine debris problems, and making people aware, because I think it's true. I keep quoting people, but when you know better, you do better. And so this is all about education and having people live their life a little bit differently and step a little bit kinder on the planet.
I think that it's easy because the whales are so big, we forget the little things that they eat and how important that very basic thing is for their survival.
Right. We've got samples of krill here. Water gets too warm. I just read an article yesterday about Glacier Bay up in Alaska, where the humpback population that's usually there hasn't been really seen since 2013. Did they die off, or are they going somewhere else for the food? Food sources are changing. Right now, we've had 6 gray whales that have washed up along our coast. Our population's at its max, about 25,000, 27,000, and there just isn't enough food. And with the ice melting, they went further north this year and were feeding, and they didn't gauge that on their migration all the way down to the lagoons in Mexico, and so they're starving. They're all dying of malnutrition.
And I think that the only good thing I can think of in that is that people have such a passion for the marine mammals, whether it's the dolphin or a whale, that may motivate people who are not in other ways particularly interested in what's going on, that may be a flame for them.
I hope so. We hope so. That's why we're out here doing this.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for it.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for your time.
Okay. We're here at the Balboa Bay Club, as I always knew it growing up, and resort as well nowadays. And we're going to talk about a great annual event, this is your 3rd year.
Yes,
This is Mark Ward, who's with Help Your Harbor.
Yes.
And 3rd year.
This
of
is
the Underwater Cleanup.
Newport Harbor Underwater Cleanup. Yes, we're very excited. Balboa Bay Club's invited us back for another time to spread out our mess on their lawn. We've got harbor construction here that's going to help the day before, picking up a lot of debris ahead of time. And we got Beach City Scuba that's going to make sure all our divers are safe.
All right, well, we're going to get to each of you in a minute, but let's just get the basic stuff out of the way. The date?
It's June 1st.
Okay.
Registration is online at nhunderwatercleanup.com. It starts at 7:30, registration in the morning. It's right here on the lawn at the Balboa Bay Club. There's valet parking that's free. It's a great event. We've got breakfast, lunch, T-shirt, and the Harvest Band is playing for us this year for an after party. We've also got 14 exhibitors this year, too, from environmental organizations from the area.
So it's like an expo. So you have people want to volunteer for diving, but also other things. Is that right?
Yes. This year we're adding some more above water opportunities. It's very important. We almost need 1-to-1 ratio for our divers to keep them safe above water, helping them lift heavy debris out of the water. In addition, this year we're hopefully going to use the Discovery Cube boat and take more land-based volunteers to various locations and clean up around the harbor. So it's kind of a two-pronged assault here.
Well, good. Our harbor is always, of course, looks sparkling clean, but this will be a big deal. So you help with some of the big stuff.
Yeah, I'm a barge driver and a diver, a commercial diver. So I work for harbor constructors, and we do work here on the harbor. So I play and I swim and I work in this water. So it's really important for me to keep it clean. The company is owned by divers, so yeah, this is something we really care about.
And you go out the day before?
I believe this year we're going out 2 days afterwards.
Oh, okay.
And all the scuba divers are going to find all the big stuff that they can't haul up manually, and we're going to use our crane to bring that up.
When you say big stuff, what are we talking about?
Boats. And,
all right, that's big.
Yeah, I mean, last year we brought up 1 boat. This year we're hoping to bring up 3. So that's the plan.
I don't know, that's sort of stunning to think that there are 3 sunken boats in the harbor, and that's not all of them or something. Goodness gracious. All right, let me move over here. And you work with the divers particularly?
Correct, yeah, I'm the dive master for the event. So my name's DJ Mansfield, Beach City Scuba. And our job is to just make sure everybody's doing a safe job and taking the time to go out there and pull the stuff up. So majority of the things that the divers pull up are just by hand. If anything's too heavy, we rely on these guys right here to help us out. It's a fun event. I've done it for years and years and years, so it's all about water quality and by pulling that stuff out.
So if I'm not a diver, I grew up with a father who was, but it was long before scuba. I mean, he just was a faceplate and that sort of thing. Yeah. So how much experience do you want? I mean, would a novice diver be able to do this, or is this somebody you want more experience?
No, a novice diver would be able to do it. It's just the understanding that the water clarity is not as good as it would be out in the main ocean, and we just brief that to folks, and they have a great time. It's a lot of fun to get out here and get the opportunity to go underwater in kind of a low visibility environment and look for things, and we found some pretty amazing stuff here. So,
I know, low visibility sounds a little creepy to me, but
no, it's a lot of fun.
Okay, all right, I'll take your word for it. All right, Mark, what happens? So you bring a bunch of stuff in. You bring it here to the Bay Club?
Well, we have harbor constructors barges out in the bay, and they serve as a remote platform for diving, as well as the divers leave all their debris on the docks, and they go around and collect it all, and we get to showcase it right here out in front of the club, and everybody gets to take their picture in front of the trash pile that we collect.
And then what happens? The Bay Club goes, great, we've got docks full of trash.
Well, actually, it never gets on the Bay Club docks. It stays on the barge, and then they haul it off. City of Newport Beach provides great support for us, big financial supporter, as well as providing the trash removal costs. And so we haul it to Rhine Channel, where it's off-lifted onto a dumpster and taken off to the landfill.
Okay, all right. So we've got the trash picked up. We've got the trash taken away. So if people want to come out, they go to your website and they can come to the day, they can volunteer, and there are all sorts of different kinds of opportunities as far as volunteers. Say I'm not built like that, so I'm not probably going to help a diver lift too much stuff up, but there'll be other things for me to do.
There's plenty to do. We have, people manning tables, people helping set up tables, take down tables, early registration, and then just walking around picking up trash, because that's what we're going to do this year more so, is to deploy people to other parts above water. But it doesn't take a lot to even assist the divers, because they're putting the stuff, holding up in the air. You just have to get it from the water level up to the dock and maybe over to a tarp at the end of the dock.
Okay, so now, again, the date is?
June 1st.
Right. I'm busy June 1st, say, but this is something that's caught my imagination. I think, well, I'd love to help clean up the harbor, and you have other things that you do.
Yes, we do. The first Saturday of every month, you can come out and join us for Help Your Harbor. We have a Facebook page and a website you can go to get information about that, helpyourharbor.com. But you can just show up at the Newport Aquatic Center or Southwind Kayaks, 9 o'clock in the morning, and we could always use more volunteers or contact our organization. We can help coordinate if you have a larger group.
Okay, so you've done it, this will be your 3rd year here. Seems to me that probably this area is getting pretty cleaned up.
Yes, we've pretty much cleaned all the docks, and hopefully we'll get OCC's docks this year. So we are out in the market to find a new event venue sponsor. We would love to clean other yacht club docks or other public marina docks. If they have the facilities to handle 250 volunteers and let us deploy 15 Duffy boats and maybe a land assault boat, that would be wonderful.
Well, that sounds like an opportunity for someone that said, particularly, I mean, do you pick, this is something that we just were talking about the other day. Does your group, will they pick up like fishing line and stuff like that?
Yeah, they'll pick up all kinds of stuff. So fishing line, there was like 2 years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, we actually found a pistol underwater. But there's all kinds of stuff that some of it just comes off the boats or it comes off the docks that the person that it fell on, they're not going to jump in and go grab it, so it just drops down to the bottom. There's a lot of that goes on, but yeah, there's fishing line, there's tarps, amazingly enough. There's chairs. There were Christmas trees that we pulled out last year. So there's a lot of stuff that's out.
After the Christmas boat parade, what do you do with your Christmas tree?
Yeah, just toss it, but it goes into the ocean, and that's not good.
All right. And Mark, what do you think is, like, aside from a gun, the most interesting things you picked up?
Well, by far the handgun is. We believe that's an ongoing crime, and we're in contact with the sheriff's office to see the results of the investigation, and they promise they'll tell us once they solve a crime. So we may have been able to help solve a crime, but
now that would be something. All right.
Shopping carts. We found I think 4 shopping carts last year, but a lot of fishing tackle, fishing gear. The boat was probably the coolest thing we got last year, to find that boat.
Much glass? Bottles and things?
Oh yeah, tons of bottles, tons of glass.
Yeah. Because I mean, that I can remember that was what you did. You finished your soft drink or beer, and then you filled it with water, sort of let it sink to the bottom, and nobody thought anything about it.
Hopefully attitudes are changing, and part of this event is we're doing a good thing at actually pulling stuff up, but it's also the broader message, spreading the word about what's down there, and being able to talk to people like you and your viewers. And also we have a great partner this year in Project Aware, who they actually catalog and database what's out there.
Okay, and we have somebody from Project Aware here.
Hi, everybody.
And you are?
I'm Deanna Moore. I'm the director of Project Aware.
So, Project Aware, what is Project Aware?
So, Project Aware, we are a global movement of divers, and we mainly focus on community and policy. So, what we do is we get divers out to put their fins on, take action, so like a cleanup here, and then they will report the data, and we use that data to actually drive international policy change. So, we work on vulnerable species like sharks and rays, and we also work on marine debris. So, we're really excited to be here, and it's an amazing event. So
when everything's brought in, then do you sort of sort it and go through and see what there is?
Yeah, there's a sorting process that's based on a really intensive quality review program that we have, and that ensures that the citizen science that is actually reported goes through to a scientific research institute, and that they can actually say that the data is really worthy and able to be published. So the data that we're collecting at this event is actually going to go into the largest underwater marine debris database on the planet, and then that will actually be published by a scientific research institute.
So you have the data, and then do you hope that policies are developed from that data?
Absolutely. So we've been really fortunate here. This local community is so engaged. They actually take that data and take it to their local representatives and say, hey, here are the top 3 things we're finding. We're going to find out, in a couple weeks what that is. And then we can say, here's the areas that you actually should be driving policy change at your local government level. So it really informs policy from a citizen science perspective.
Okay, so in other words, if there's just we assume that we're going to find a lot of plastic. There's a lot of plastic, but you can also, would you just say plastic, or would you break it down a little bit farther so we can say, okay, it's mostly plastic bags, or it's pieces of old chair, or what?
Yeah, so one of the things, and we're so grateful to our community that they do this, our survey I think has 50 different data slots, which is quite intensive, but it's so important for what you just said, which is what is the exact piece of debris. So if it's plastic, are we talking packaging like a clamshell, or are we talking a bottle? Actually, our database has shown globally that 60% of the marine debris that we find is plastic. But one of those number one things is fishing line. So we can now see what that looks like, and we'll be able to take this data and make decisions as a community, which is one of the most important and empowering things about citizen science.
Well, I think that's important, because I know I think it was maybe 5 years ago or longer that we had proposed something where there would be on the public docks a place to dispose of line and
Yes.
stuff. And unfortunately, we sort of fell apart on who was going to pick it up. But I think with
always the issue.
but with more data,
Yes.
that might have helped us push it through. So this will be
Yes.
very valuable.
And divers can work with the fishing community. I think that this is all about a collaborative discussion. So it's not about, hey, you lost your lobster trap. That's an opportunity for us to work with you as divers and say, let's bring it up and you can reuse it, because they don't want to lose their gear either. That's an economic loss for them. So let's work together as the diving community and fishing community to find solutions and to hold the burden of collecting the trash.
And Mark, I think that gets back also, talking like, for example, the fishing line,
Yes.
gets back to education.
Yes.
That people just don't think about it a lot of times. They don't think of how much, it's like, oh, if I just do this, it doesn't matter, but they don't think of 1,000 other people doing it, which makes it more significant.
Yes.
And the public docks in particular, I mean, I think a lot of locals are we've gotten over the years really aware of water quality, much more than maybe an inland person might be. But our public docks are often fished by people that are not from around here, but from inland. And it would be great to get them educated too, because they're enjoying it. And I know they're not, if they are doing something, they're not aware of it.
That would be a great education piece for us to work on in the future. Maybe as part of our event, we could go have an outreach to the public docks, or maybe we could work with the city at how to post it better and give them places to put their fishing line and educate them.
Right, and find a way that they can dispose of it easily there, because we all know that half the battle with trash is don't make me walk very far. And a way to pick it up and dispose of it.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yes.
Right.
Well, and also obviously one of the biggest offenders is our upstream neighbors and what comes down through the San Diego Creek into this specific harbor, which is 85% of the flows coming into the harbor come through San Diego Creek, and therefore about 85% of the floating debris comes in through San Diego Creek. So there's other solutions that we're working on there as well.
Right. So once it's June 1st at the Balboa Bay Club and Resort, and once more the website.
It's nhunderwatercleanup.com.
That's simple. Well, thank you all, and I know it's going to be a great event, and I'm looking forward to the most interesting things you bring up, and also to the data that you derive from the cleanup.
We will share that with you, definitely.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy.
Well, that's our show. Until next time, let's all work on making our village green.